User-defined function is a function that is defined by the user to solve his or her problem. Function header includes a return type along with function name along with argument list. Local declaration and executable statements are together called body of the function. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on programming in C. And the chapter name here is User-Defined Function. I am Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let's recall the topic which I have covered in my last session. So dear student, I have covered C pointers. That means what is pointer? So pointers are nothing but the variables used to hold the address of another variable. Along with that, I have discussed how to declare a pointer with the example. Along with that, how can I create pointer to a function, pointer to array, along with structure pointer in C program. But in my today's session, I'm going to deal with definition about user-defined function. So function definition or structure of a function. Along with that, I'm going to deal with calling a function, returning a value and function prototype. Now at the beginning, I'm going to have the definition about user-defined function. Now, as the function name itself indicates that user can able to define their own set of programs or their own set of statement. That is itself known as user-defined function. That means to solve certain problem, user can able to define their own type of program is known as user-defined function. So here, user-defined function is a function that is defined by the user to solve his or her problem. And such functions are called from anywhere and any number of times in the program. That means user-defined functions can be called anywhere in the program and any number of times can be called. Now, the purpose of using a function is make the design process easy. Now, dear student, think that I want to design a calculator. I want to provide basic functionality. Now, if I design all the things in one single module, then that has become complicated one. So what I will do, I'm going to divide that problem into smaller module. So here modules are nothing but the subprogram, and I'm going to find the solution for individual module. I'm going to test the module. Later, I'm going to club all these modules to get my final output. Similarly, if I go with functions, functions are mainly used to make the program design easy. To make the program design easy, I'm going to use function and understandable, and we can able to avoid ambiguity. That means by using functions, we can able to avoid ambiguity. Moving further, I'm going to have the structure of user-defined function. So dear student, before going to write user-defined function, let me to talk about structure of the user defined function. That means how the user defined function actually look like. So here at the beginning, I'm going to have the return type specifier. That means I want to specify the return type. Along with that, I want to write the function name. Along with that, I want to include the argument list. So dear student, this argument list is optional. That is depends on the user. That means function can have argument, or without the argument also it is fine. Now after that, I'm going to have local variable declaration, and I'm going to have executable statement, and there are certain time I'm going to return the output. So here return statement is mainly depends on the return type of the function. So this is known as body of the function. So it is known as body of the function, and return type, function name, as well as arguments together called function header. So what is function header? Function header includes return type along with function name, along with argument list. So here arguments are nothing but the variables or parameter list. Now dear student, let me to write the example here. Think that I want to perform addition operation. So what is my function name here? It is add, and I'm going to accept two input, that is int, that is of type integer. After that, I'm going to return the value, and what value I'm going to return, that is of type integer, and I'm going to have the set of statement. Now dear student, this is itself known as function header. That means that tells the compiler about the function name along with the return type, along with the parameter list. Now I have body. So this is nothing but function body. This is the way I can able to define user defined function in my program. So here return type specifies the returning value. That means what kind of value you're going to return to the calling function. And there are certain time return type may be void. So what's the meaning of void here? That is nothing but it's going to indicate that the particular function does not return any value to the calling function. Suppose if the function returns value, then the value may be in the form of character, or in the form of integer, or in the form of float. Now I'm going to have function name. User can able to specify their own function name, and while writing function name, user must have to follow the rules. So here it is the name of the function, and it's mainly used to identify the particular function. Along with that, I'm going to have argument list. So here this argument list with declaration is optional. That means function can have arguments or may not be. Now the complete line is called function header. So along with return type, function name, and parameters together called function header. And what is local variable? The variable which is declared in the function is known as functional variable. Then the scope of the variables are within the function. After that, I'm going to have executable statement. So here I have set of statement and that is mainly used to perform some necessary operations. And at the end, local declaration and executable statements are together called body of the function. So what is body of the function? That is local variable declaration as well as executable statements are together called body of the function. Now calling a function. So dear student, let me to tell you how to write the function first. In C program, I can able to user define function in two ways. That means if I'm going to use function definition at the beginning itself, then no need to write the function prototype. That means I can able to write the function above the main program. So I can able to write the function above the main program. In that situation, I don't want to define function prototype. If I'm going to write the function below the main program, then what I want to do? I want to write the function prototype. And how I'm going to write the function prototype? In two ways. That is, at the beginning, that means globally I can able to define the function prototype, or within the main program, the first statement itself function prototype. This is the way I can able to use functions in my program. And where I'm going to call the function? In my main program or anywhere in the program, I can able to call the function. And how I'm going to call the function? By specifying function name along with the parameters. So it is called function call or calling a function. So when the function is called, the control transfer to called function. So here the definition of the program can come either before main program or after main program. That means I can able to write the function definition above the main program or below the main program. Now, calling function is a function that transfers the control from to other function by specifying the name of the function as well as passing arguments. Now, called function. So, one is my calling function, that's nothing but function call, and called function is a function. So, called function is also nothing but a function that receives the call as well as arguments from another calling function. So, here if I write add, this is my calling function, and when I call this function, the control transfer to called function. Okay, it is my called function. So function call is the statement that is used to call or make another function to execute. Why I'm going to call function? In order to make another function to execute. Now, when a function call is made, the control jumps controlling function or calling function. So here when I call the function, the control transfer to or jump to calling function to be called. So here general form of function call is I'm going to have variable. Now tell me why I required variable? Because there are certain situations this function is going to return the value. Now I want to hold that value. To hold that value, I required some variable. So I'm going to assign the value. So here my function is going to have arguments. For that reason, I'm going to have argument list. Another method, without argument, I can able to call the function, and this is the example. So my function name is biggest and I'm going to pass A, B, C. Okay, this is the way I can able to call a function. Now return a value. When the function is called, after executing that function, the function returns some value to the calling function. So when a function is called, the statement in the called function is executed. After executing the statement, the function returns the value to the calling function. The return statement is used to return a value. So why I am going to use the return statement? To return the value, and a function can return only one value. So dear student, a function can able to return only one value or none value. That means no value. The general form, return keyword and expression, or I can able to use return 0. Now function prototype. So dear student, here what is function prototype? That is nothing but the declaration of function. And why I required function prototype? Because I want to inform the compiler that I'm going to use function in my program. These are the parameters and this is my return type. And I'm going to use this function later to indicate that I'm going to have the function prototype. Now, the general form of function prototype here is, I want to specify the return type and function name. Along with that, I'm going to have the arguments. The second form here is, I have return type along with the function name. Now, dear student, let's see the argument list here. Here I'm going to specify the data type along with the argument name. But if I go with the second type, here I'm not going to specify the argument name. Just I'm going to specify the data type. Now let me to discuss the example here. What is my function name here? Biggest. I'm going to specify int x, int y, int z. Along with that, see here, I'm going to specify the variable names. But if I go with second type, I'm just going to specify the data type. I'm not going to specify the variable name or argument list name. In my today's session, I started with what is user-defined function, how to create user-defined function. Along with that, I have discussed how to call a function, what is function header, what is function prototype, etc. But in my next session, I'm going to deal with the different types of arguments, that is actual argument, formal argument, local argument, as well as global argument. Along with that, I'm going to deal with the types of function. Anyway, dear student, let's meet in the next session with more information about user-defined function. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.